Welcome to the Exercise Classroom, your source for anatomical, biomechanical, and practical exercise education. Today's lesson, the good morning. Introduction. The good morning is a compound posterior chain exercise that involves hip hinging while keeping a barbell across the upper back. It targets the glutes, hamstrings, and spinal erectors and teaches effective hip hinge mechanics. While it shares movement similarities with the Romanian deadlift, the bar placement on the upper back introduces increased spinal loading, making this exercise a hybrid between a deadlift and a squat pattern. It's also sometimes called the barbell good morning. Body contour benefits. The good morning strengthens and thickens the spinal erectors and hamstrings while enhancing the curvature and muscular definition of the lower back and glute area. It also improves postural control by reinforcing the back's ability to remain upright under load. The movement. The exercise involves hip extension on the way up and hip flexion during the lowering phase, while the spine remains in isometric stabilization throughout. The good morning builds functional strength for activities that require bending and lifting while maintaining spinal posture. It's valuable for injury prevention in sports and daily movement where hip hinging is essential. Exercise execution. Stand with feet shoulder width apart, barbell resting across the upper back, not the neck, and hands gripping the bar just outside shoulder width. Engage your core and slightly bend the knees. Inhale and slowly hinge at the hips, pushing the glutes backward while maintaining a flat back and neutral spine. Lower your torso until it's nearly parallel to the ground or until your flexibility allows. Exhale and drive the hips forward to return to a standing position, squeezing the glutes at the top. Proper technique. Keep a neutral spine and avoid excessive knee movement. The bar should remain stable on the upper back with controlled tempo throughout. Lowering the torso to near parallel maximizes glute and hamstring stretch without compromising spinal position. Flexibility and control determine the appropriate depth. The most common mistake is excessive spinal rounding during the descent, which places undue stress on the lower back and reduces effectiveness of the hip hinge mech. Muscle mechanics. The movement begins with eccentric contraction of the glutes and hamstrings as the torso lowers under control. The spinal erectors engage isometrically to maintain spinal alignment. The concentric phase occurs as the glutes and hamstrings contract to extend the hips and return to standing. Primary movers. The primary movers in the good morning are the gluteus maximus and hamstrings, which generate the force for hip extension. The erector spinae also plays a crucial role by resisting flexion forces and maintaining posture throughout the movement. Other muscle roles. The hip flexors, including the iliopsoas, act as antagonists by opposing hip extension during the ascent. The adductor magnus and gastrocnemius assist in hip extension and stabilization. The rectus abdominis, obliques, and upper back muscles stabilize the torso and prevent forward collapse under the bar. Biomechanical considerations. Proper hip hinge mechanics isolate the posterior chain and prevent spinal overuse. Maintaining spinal alignment under load is critical to protect the vertebral discs and avoid injury. Barbell positioning across the upper traps, not the neck, ensures force is evenly distributed across the posterior chain. Minimal knee flexion helps maintain tension in the hamstrings and reinforces posterior loading. Training effectiveness and optimization. Start with light weights and gradually increase as your mechanics and control improve. Lower slowly and raise under tension to maximize muscle recruitment and time under tension. Use the good morning as an accessory movement to strengthen the deadlift, squat, and posterior chain stability. Use mirrors or video to self-assess spinal alignment and hip depth throughout the movement. Safety and injury prevention. Excessive weight can compromise form and lead to lower back injuries. Glute activation and hamstring stretches prepare the hips and spine for safe movement. A tight, braced core supports the spine and reduces the risk of collapse. In case of fatigue or failure, safety pins or a spotter can prevent bar collapse or injury. Variations and alternatives. The Romanian deadlift keeps the load in front of the body and emphasizes eccentric hamstring loading with less spinal compression. The seated good morning reduces balance demands while maintaining posterior chain activation and spinal alignment. The cable pull-through provides resistance in the same hip hinge pattern but reduces axial spinal load. The barbell hip thrust emphasizes glute activation with less spinal stress and more stability support. The Good Morning builds powerful, injury-resistant hip and back strength by training pure hip hinge mechanics under controlled load.